Next, Broadway conquers the global economy.
This is America, and unless you can make money, it don't count.
Never put your own money in the show.
From Cats to The Lion King, from Rent to Wicked, it's all on Broadway, the American musical. This is the beautifully restored New Amsterdam Theatre, home to Disney's The Lion King. Only a decade ago, this building was a dilapidated ruin, and 42nd Street a jungle of urban decay. But today, the fortunes of the American musical have changed. Florenz Ziegfeld once produced his Follies here, but now enormous media corporations like Disney have become the new impresarios. The Broadway stages are the same, the actors, the orchestra, but the business of show business has changed, especially if you want to be a producer.
I want to be a producer with a hit show on Broadway. I want to be a producer, lunch at Sardi's every day.
I want to be a producer and sleep until 2:30. I want to be a producer and say you, not you. I've always wanted to be a producer, or in any way, I would work in the men's room of a Broadway theater. I just wanted to be close to Broadway.
Musical comedy seemed almost revolutionary in 2001 when Mel Brooks adapted his 1968 film, The Producers, to the Broadway stage. The musical paired a nerdy accountant named Leo Bloom with the eccentric Max Bialystock, an unscrupulous producer who takes money from little old ladies to finance his shows.
I've been a lying, double-crossing, two-faced, backstabbing, despicable crook. But I had no choice. I was a Broadway producer. Bloom, the two cardinal rules of being a Broadway producer are: one, never put your own money in the show.
And two,
Never put your own money in the show!
The show became the first must-see musical comedy in decades. And tickets were so hard to come by that the producers of The Producers could charge $480 for each VIP seat.
It's been controversial, but I don't know why it should be. What was happening was that when you had a big hit, all the money was being made by the scalpers. People who had nothing to do with the show's creation were reaping all the benefits from it. And we felt that there had to be something we could do to stop that.
It took a total of 14 producers and $10 million to bring this musical comedy to Broadway. And more Hollywood and media moguls are getting into the act. But the next musical to occupy the Winter Garden Theatre would play for a record-breaking 18 years. Its producer was Cameron Mackintosh, and during the 80s, he redefined the formula for success in musical theatre.
To create a show on Broadway, which is something I've never done and never will do, would cost me nearly twice as much money as doing it in London. The rule of thumb is that a show that costs $7 to $8 million in London, here it will cost $12+ million.
Mackintosh's big break came when he produced a new work by Andrew Lloyd Webber, who had composed Broadway hits such as Evita and Jesus Christ Superstar. The show was Cats, and it was derived from a series of T.S. Eliot poems for children.
I listened to it all and I said, Andrew, is this something I don't get? Is this about Queen Victoria, she's the main cat, and Disraeli and Gladstone are other cats, and then there are, poor cats, and am I missing this? And he took a terrible, painful, long pause and said, Hal, it's about cats.
Jellicles do, and jellicles can. Jellicles can and jellicles do. Jellicles can sing jellicle chats. Jellicles all and jellicles do. Jellicles song.
was an extraordinary situation, you see, because it was an unknown producer in Cameron Mackintosh. It was an unknown director in musical theatre terms in Trevor Nunn, and what could he possibly know, with a whole load of poems by a poet. I mean, the list was endless.
Cats became a phenomenon in London and earned the biggest advance ticket sale in Broadway history. It was entirely unconventional and had almost no storyline, yet audiences could not resist the dancing felines. Playing over 7,000 performances, Cats, a British import, became the longest-running show in Broadway history. For Cameron Mackintosh, it was only the beginning.
Do you hear the people singing the song of anger?
After Cats, Cameron Mackintosh imported other blockbusters from London and Paris, including Les Miserables, The Phantom of the Opera, and Miss Saigon. Broadway audiences thrilled to the emotionally resonant stories, stirring pop ballads, and colorful spectacle.
Do you hear the people singing the song of angry men?
If you're dealing with big themes, you've got to have it big visually as well as big musically. You're seeing emotions painted larger than life. And if you paint them smaller than life, you might as well sit at home and watch telly or look in the mirror.
Mackintosh conceived of Broadway as the centerpiece for marketing shows around the world. His approach to promotion was both radical and simple. The ads for his shows carried no quotes, only the sleek, unforgettable logos for the shows themselves.
Cameron is one of the last of the guys with a real singular vision of how he thinks a show should be produced, what he thinks it should look like, how it should play, and he's very active as an engaged creative producer.
You are sunlight and I moon joined here.
There aren't many of those types around anymore.
With the flame of love.
With scores by Andrew Lloyd Webber and the French team of Alain Boublil and Claude-Michel Schoenberg, Mackintosh's 4 top shows have grossed revenue of over $8 billion worldwide. More than Star Wars, Raiders of the Lost Ark, Jurassic Park, and Titanic combined.
One more dawn, one more day, one day more.
In the end, it's all about art. Andrew and I broke the rules when we started our shows, and history proves to us that every 20 or 30 years you have to reinvent the rules.
The recent corporate influence on Broadway is often attributed to the success of the Walt Disney Company. But before the Broadway musical was resurrected by Disney, Disney was resurrected by the Broadway musical. After more than a decade of lackluster films, Disney had a string of hit animated musicals, many written by Broadway veterans and informed by Broadway storytelling.
The seaweed is always greener in somebody else's lake. You dream about going up there, but that is a big mistake.
But producing a live musical on Broadway seemed beyond the limits of even Disney magic.
It kind of kept that, resisted, until we made the movie Beauty and the Beast. I think Frank Rich reviewed it as the best musical in New York, but it was a movie. And that got us thinking, and then we decided, you know what, let's give it a shot. And the whole thing kind of fit together in a Disney-esque way. And it's been, I don't know, 10 years, pretty good.
Disney's success with Beauty and the Beast spurred an unexpected transformation of 42nd Street itself. It began when Michael Eisner visited the crumbling New Amsterdam Theatre, the former crown jewel of Florenz Ziegfeld's kingdom.
I'm gonna be a mighty king, so when the beasts beware.
I've never seen a king of beasts with quite so little hair.
Somebody called me and said, "You want to see the theater?" And I said, "Yeah, why not?" And it was dark, and it was raining. It was raining in the theater. Birds were flying around, but you could see what it was.
The New Amsterdam was magnificently restored. And for the first time in 75 years, major corporations became interested in 42nd Street and Times Square.
If you ask anybody walking down the street who is the star of Broadway, everybody's going to say Michael Eisner. The star is the corporation. It's taking show business to a new level of what the meaning of the word is.
The show that moved into the refurbished New Amsterdam in the fall of 1997 was The Lion King, an adaptation of Disney's most successful animated film. It featured popular songs by Elton John, with lyrics by Tim Rice, and a chorus led by South African composer Lebo M. But the real challenge was how to translate the movie's animated characters to the stage.
It is a landscape that people don't think can be put on a stage. It's the animal kingdom. It's an animal parable of life. And yet, I needed to make sure I could keep the human beings present. This was a question in the development of Lion King. Big question in the workshops of, can the audience look at a human face and look at a mask at the same time? Where will they focus? And I'm saying that in the theater, you can expect more from your audiences. They know they're in a theater. The audience is not spoon-fed absolute reality, but they come and they finish the sentences with you.
You know, you work in television, which I've done a lot. You don't feel a reaction. You read that 62 million people watch this and 50 million people watch that. It's empty and it's sterile. But 1,832 people at this theater going crazy is awesome.
One of the best things about The Lion King is that it's not about race and all about race. When white audiences go to see Lion King, they don't think about it. They get the beauty and the talent of these great performers and the music. And yet if a black audience goes, it's all about race. Because imagine a young African-American child going and seeing a king who's black. It is about a future where racism won't be an issue at all.
On October 21st, 1995, composer Jonathan Larson quit his job as a waiter at the Moondance Diner, where he had worked for over 9 years.
My last checkbook.
A small off-Broadway theater had committed to produce his new rock opera.
Making my last chocolate milkshake.
His dream was to create a new kind of Broadway show that would appeal to a generation raised on rock and roll and MTV.
We were really developing Rent for the East Village. It's a modern reimagining of La Boheme in the East Village. He was working from an urgent place, working through of a number of his friends becoming ill. And what's absolutely best and most meaningful about Rent is the stuff that's closest to Jonathan's heart and the stuff that is closest to the material, which was about him dealing with a lot of friends' death from AIDS.
One song, glory. One song before I go, glory. One song to leave behind. Find one song, one last refrain, glory from the pretty boy front man who wasted
opportunity. One song, he had the world at his feet, glory in the eyes of a young girl.
During the exhausting technical rehearsals for Rent, Jonathan Larson was admitted to the hospital twice with flu-like symptoms. The night before the first preview, he suddenly died, not of AIDS, but of an undiagnosed heart problem. He was 35 years old.
Time flies, time
And what happened in those days following his death is that he became a part of the musical. And of course, those issues in the musical about loss pound in our ears and beat in our chests. And we all sort of took a lesson from the musical about how to move forward and how to take care of ourselves.
The success of Rent off-Broadway prompted a move to the Nederlander Theatre, where it has played over 3,000 performances.
525,600 minutes, 525,000 moments so dear.
And Rent feels like a celebration, but it's actually about surviving great loss and great devastation. And I really love the sentiment of being able to measure our time here and our success here by how much love we put out and how much love comes back to us.
Seasons of love.
Jonathan Larson was posthumously awarded the Pulitzer Prize in drama. His family has used the royalties from Rent to create a foundation dedicated to helping young songwriters leave their day jobs and realize their dreams.
No day but today.
For over 20 years, fans of Broadway could buy discounted tickets at two locations, 47th and Broadway, and in the second tower of the World Trade Center. On September 11th, 2001, everything changed.
When 9/11 happened, the entire world was grieving, and especially New York was grieving, and there was no relief from it.
Times Square, the crossroads of the world, was nearly deserted in the days after the attack. And so were Broadway's theaters.
Come here and spend money. Go to a restaurant, a play. You might actually have a better chance of getting tickets to the producers now.
These little town blues are melting away.
We'll make a brand new start of it.
At first, it seemed inappropriate to go to the theater, but in fact, it became almost like medicine. Top-notch performers doing their best to make you have a little relief from that grief.
Come to New York and let's go on with the show.
Right now, people want more of an escape, you know, as they did after World War II. So for the next 5-10 years, I think we're going to see more musical comedies.
Like other current hits, Hairspray, the success of the 2002 season, was based on a feature film. With production costing upwards of $10 million, more and more producers are hedging their bets, relying on recognizable titles to lure audiences to Broadway. The biggest show of 2003 was Wicked, a $14 million gamble. Wicked is the second Broadway production backed by Universal Studios.
A film can generate an awful lot of money very quickly, almost immediately, over a 3-day weekend. The scariest thing about the theater is it could open and nobody saw what you saw, and in a very short time, it's just gone.
The wickedest witch there ever was, the enemy of all of us, you and us, is dead.
Wicked is a traditional book musical adapted from an original novel. Its commercial appeal lies in America's fascination with the Wizard of Oz. But producing a magical fantasy on Broadway means confronting a harsh economic reality.
The theater is a handmade enterprise. There are no economies of scale or economies of technology. Costumes, sets are handmade, created for the particular show. It's a highly labor-intensive process.
Wicked strikes me as huge. I've never been in anything, well, this kind of spectacular nature.
I mean, the first notes of the show with the orchestra go like.
It's an enormous show. I don't think the enormity of it really hits you until you do a run through and go, oh, now I see the overview.
Monkeys fly and there are magic tricks. There were so many visual demands that it was going to be hard to tell much more from a workshop. Therefore, for better or worse, we had to do a production.
You're really coming together to go into New York and face what is an enormous amount of pressure.
During the 8 weeks before opening night, scenes were cut. New dialogue and songs were written, and 4 parts were recast, including the role of the wizard.
You work right into the bitter end. There's a phrase that says that the show is frozen, which we try to do a few days before opening, but really, you're tweaking that show until the critics come.
Popular, I'll help you be popular. You'll hang with our right cohort. You'll be good at sports. Know the slang you've got to know. So, oh my gosh, thank you.
Tonight is opening night, day before Halloween.
You only have one opening night. And it will never be like this again.
It's either live or die by opening night. Something that could have been 5 years in coming and $10 million can go down in 2 hours.
I know about popular, and with an assist from me to be who you'll be instead of dreary who you were, well, are. There's nothing that can stop you from becoming popular. Lar, la, la, la. I'm flying high, defying gravity, and soon I'll match them in renown.
And nobody in all of Oz, no wizard that there is or was, is ever gonna bring me down. I hope you're happy.
In their reviews of the show, critics were divided. But in its first holiday season at the Gershwin Theatre, it broke box office records. According to the producers, the show will recoup its $14 million investment
Thanks a lot.
in 1.5 years, if they can sell over 1,300 tickets to each and every performance.
When you go to a Broadway musical, you remember every moment of that night.
It's only just out of reach, down the block on a beach, maybe tonight.
It's live, and anything can happen.